It's the topic of conversation. I actually just finished up an opinionated editorial, and I know we'll touch on it a little bit with Greg, but it has been the hot topic the last couple of days here, and I want to get your take on it, Mike. My opinionated editorial that I just published on dragillustrated.com basically explains my perspective that I think the tensions that we're seeing in drag racing, specifically pro stock, the dust up heard around the world, are actually good for the sport. And I'm just curious, and for those that maybe weren't paying attention to the NHRA broadcast this past weekend going on at Bristol's Thunder Valley Dragway, a little bit of some words exchanged on the starting line between the KB Titan camp and the Elite Motorsports camp, and tempers escalated, tempers flare, and people got a little fired up. And I'm just kind of curious, Mike, like, this is something that these are the type of conversations that I really enjoy having on this show. So I think that's maybe why we're talking about it. But I think passion is proof of investment. I say this a lot, but humans are going to human. And I think that as a collective, as a sport, we kind of got to get off this high horse and quit trying to label people that are just simply fired up in the moment. I was having this conversation with Chad Head from Coletta Motorsports yesterday, and he's like, man, all I saw in Bristol was racers doing racer things. This is kind of the nature of the beast. And I tend to agree, but it seems to be a very polarizing conversation in our sport. And I'm just kind of curious your take on, balancing sportsmanship and passion and the things that go with both.
I don't know, man. It seems like we can never be happy, right? We call pro stock boring, pro Camaro. It's the KB and Elite show. How many times have we heard all these comments? But then when something spicy happens in pro stock, then it's, they shouldn't be doing that. They've got to carry themselves differently. What's the deal? And you've got people taking sides, which I think is critical. It's got to be polarizing, right? So you've got people on the KB side, you got people on the Elite side, at least in the comments, sort of staking their claim as to who they thought was right or what side they're defending. But you see this a lot. Like, to me, this is a lot of the nature of drag racing. And you see this at your local track. You see this at, we've seen it come to the forefront with the Grudge and No Time, seeing a lot of people on the starting line, a lot of emotions after a win or a loss or something happens. A lot of people really bought into what's happening. And that, to me, is all we saw there as well. And I'm here for it. It's been a couple of years since we saw something like this. The KB and Elite rivalry never has died down, and whether it's at the forefront or behind the scenes, it's always there. And we just saw it come to the forefront this weekend, and I think actually we're seeing NHRA embrace it more. We saw NHRA even post a quick whoever took that video from the tower looking down into the back area of the water box into the staging lanes. They posted that video. So for NHRA to actually even embrace it, I think kind of shows that maybe we're seeing a little bit of a turn there as far as them not shying completely away from it, which is kind of how we've seen other motorsports embrace this kind of thing, not necessarily condone it. And then there'll be penalties and fines, which we can get into all that as well. But to kind of show that emotion, don't stifle it, whether it be on the top end, as soon as someone gets out of the car or things like this, let it naturally play out and see what it can do for that class and for the sport as a whole.
I think there's a clear double standard. I mean, it's if you look at other sports, this type of thing is celebrated. We just call it fire or competitiveness. I mean, MLB, you've got a bench clearing brawl. It's a viral moment. It's not a career-ending scandal. NBA, guys like Kevin Garnett, I mean, they trash-talked people's families and still ended up with endorsement deals. NFL post-game handshakes, snubs, and sideline shouting matches, all that stuff is like, it's storylines, not scandal. And I mean, the UFC made billions on the backs of screaming into cameras and throwing chairs at press conferences. I don't know that we need to look at these men and women as the people that need to set an example for our children, right?
Or that need to be so worried about sponsors. I mean, they are, and these teams are sponsored, but they have a close relationship with those sponsors. Or yes, it may not just be the all-out corporate sponsorship that we saw in the past, and it's a B2B thing, or it's it's a family-run race team, or whatever the case may be, where people can't be so afraid or aren't as afraid anymore for these kind of things to jeopardize their sponsorship or their airtime on TV from Fox or from NHRA. So all those things kind of have to work together. Now we don't really want to go crazy and have the pendulum swing too far in the other direction,
breaking
because
out.
the other thing that comes to mind, and anytime that I've personally been involved in a situation like this, the first person that's usually coming up to you and is upset about it is a mom with her kids there or something, and the example that you're setting for their kids. So that is kind of the slippery slope. Like, so many people look up to these teams and these drivers, and how do they show that fire and express themselves and be an adult? Like the Pat McAfee show, every time that show starts, it's got a disclaimer card that says, this is a show about sports, but it's our opinions, and there may be some cussing involved, because that's how humans in the real world talk. And so it's like kind of bridging that gap between how things actually are in the real world amongst adults, and then also setting a good example. So that to me
I think you're right. Like, why do we hold our sport to this church picnic standard?
Right.
Like, why does emotion equal bad optics in drag racing, but everywhere else it equals ratings gold? Like, I do think you're right. Like, times have changed. We're in an era where authenticity wins every single time. Fans are starving for it, to be honest. I mean, how many comments do you got to see on social media about these canned, corporate kind of toe the corporate line sound bites on the top end? I mean, we want these guys to tell us how they feel. And I always say, like, that's what's going to connect someone, because I would argue that, I mean, I remember when Tony Stewart, it was a viral reaction to Bobby Bodie Jr. throwing his helmet after he wrecked the car, or the body blew off of it. I can't remember exactly what happened, but he got out of the car and launched his helmet, and it was like this big controversy, right? And the cameras, shout out to NHRA and Fox, because they went immediately to Tony Stewart, who was very much a newcomer to our sport at the time. And he immediately, and I'm paraphrasing here, but like, that's the type of passion Tony wants to see. He goes, that's the kind of guy that I want driving my car, because I know he cares. I know this stuff means something to him. And I'm always pointing to that as what our sport needs more of, not less of. I mean, social clips of that drama, I bet that outperformed anything else they posted. Matter of fact, we could probably check that right now.
100%. You could dig up those numbers. And I know the stuff that we posted throughout the weekend about Erica's situation with the tires or the wheel, and then the penalty, or the announcement of the penalty, and then the later subsequent announcement of the actual fine and points deduction. Those have been huge social media drivers as well. And this just opens up the comments for everyone to jump in there and give their opinion, which is good, man. We post so much content that I feel like it's funny, we joke, you never know what's gonna hit and what's not. We got this like fire video, man. We got this graphic that we've worked on all day, and it just doesn't get the traction. And then you got something like that, and then it's just a firestorm of comments from the fans and from every people involved. So that, to me, that's a positive thing. That is a positive thing. Now, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about with the elite camp, and maybe we can get Greg to talk about some of this when he gets on here. As far as the rule, how it was enforced or not, and then the fine, did the punishment fit the crime, all of those kind of things. We can maybe dive into some of that. I don't know how much Greg will really want to, just knowing Greg and knowing kind of how he runs his operation, but we can try to prod him a little bit.